Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. This week I'm joining the Punched Out Thursday to Die For collaboration. We share ideas every Thursday on what to do with your punches and your dies. I will put links to all of the other ladies' channels below, so be sure to check them out because they are really creative. Here's what I'm going to be doing today, and I will be creating all of those embellishments with tools from my stash. I'm going to be following a sketch from a class I'm taking called 6x6 Paper Pad Sketches by Allison Davis at Scrapbook Generation. I can't share the sketch with you, but I can tell you I absolutely love this class, and I will do my best to give you step-by-step instructions in this video. Also, I will put a link to the class and the Scrapbook Generation below. So here's what I'm starting with. It's a bit of a stash bust. I have paper from Fancy Pants Designs and Stampin' Up. Those titles are from the Kate and Ash collection from Simple Stories. Those bows are really old from Amy Tangerine. And I have 2 sets of dies. I'll end up digging into more tools as well, and you're about to see that on the screen. And I'll talk about all the tools I use throughout the process. I'll also put a list of everything I use in the description box below. And when possible, I will make suggestions for substitutes in case you want to follow along and you don't have everything I have here. Now, all I did in advance was double mat those 2 photos. And this is a story about Chester being really naughty in the kitchen. Right there, he's drinking out of my coffee milk fluffer pot in the morning. He was shooed away as soon as I took the photo, just saying. Anyway, now I'm showing you the paper, the basket of tools I have, and what I'm going to do now is create a little narrow border on the left side of that black cardstock before going on with the hexagons. So I'm just trimming down a really narrow strip of paper. That one there measures about 1 inch. But what I'm going to do is adhere it behind that black 12 by 12 piece of cardstock, just so that it peeks out about 1/2 inch. But I wait to adhere that before actually trimming my black cardstock, just in case the measurements are a little bit off. And now I know my foundation page is 12 by 12. Now what I'm going to do is cut out a whole bunch of hexagons in 3 different printed papers. So I'm getting out my Big Shot. These dies are from Close to My Heart, and there's an embossed stitching around the edge. And I'm going to cut out a bunch of them. I'll write the size of them and the number of them on the screen. But really what's important here is if you have smaller hexagons, you're just going to need more of them. And if you have bigger hexagons, you'll need fewer. That's it. You can also see I cut out some small white ones and a couple small red hearts. That's going to be for embellishing later on. But the first thing I'm going to do is start adhering these hexagons, starting at the right-hand side of this page. And they're going to start by basically by adhering half hexagons. You're going to see I kind of have them hanging over and then later go in and trim them. I'm adding a bunch of this adhesive from my ATG tape runner, which ends up being a disaster. You'll see that in a minute too. And I'm starting by adhering these hexagons in the middle, thinking that when I reach the edges at the top and at the bottom, they will be equal. But it turns out it's not the case at all. So I guess I could have started at the very top, flat with the top, and it wouldn't have made any difference. By the time you get all of these hexagons adhered to the page, it kind of has that quilt-like look anyway. So I think little imperfections are actually quite hidden. Anyway, as you can see at this point, I decide to trim down what's excess hanging over the side, but that was terrible because I have adhesive all over my trimmer now. So I continue adhering these hexagons to the page. I end up doing about 4.5 rows. So I do 4 more rows in addition to that half row of hexagons. And I just have the same repeating pattern going on. I don't make you watch all of this, but what I am going to do is when I come back, I end up trimming them all down. So I don't trim down every time there's a hexagon hanging over the edge. I do it all at once. And this part is really sped up, and I'm so sorry. It's because I went to look for a tool, and when I went to look for my tool, I forgot to turn my camera off. So instead of cutting it out, which I suppose I could have done, I just sped it up really fast. But all I'm doing here is, you can see I trimmed off the excess hexagons. I placed those small white ones and the hearts on the red ones, but I'm not liking it, so I didn't adhere it right away. I showed you a title that I cut out with my Big Shot and some dies, and now I'm cutting out a large hexagon in graph paper. So that's going to be where my title goes, as well as some journaling and some embellishing. I am going to beef up that title quite a bit. First of all, I'm showing you these title stickers from Simple Story. So I end up using some of the words that are on there, and then I end up doing some stamping later on. And these letters that I cut out with my die cutting machine, I use dies from Stampin' Up! For that, and each letter has 3 layers of cardstock, so it makes them thick, like a homemade thicker. So now what I'm going to do is use the tool that I went to look for, which is a bundle from Stampin' Up! Called Just Saying. So there's stamps with speech bubbles, and then there are coordinating dies. It's a really old set, but it's a really fun set. So I'm going to be stamping out hey there, love ya, and woo-hoo, and then I have the dies to cut them out with. If you like the speech bubble effect and you don't have this particular set of stamps and dies, you can use oval punches, circle punches, or even scalloped circle punches or scalloped ovals or little cloud punches, anything like that, and just create a tail. And that tail could just be a little triangle like these, or it could be a couple little dots that lead down to the person or object who is thinking. Who the speech bubble belongs to, I guess. So you can see I'm playing around with placement of these speech bubbles. I'm now getting out these titles, and I'm going to cut out one of them that says so sassy. So at this point I'm thinking, hey there Chester, so sassy, but you're going to see that gets changed up a bit too. Honestly, I'm not quite sure where I'm going with the embellishing at this point. I do have my trusty cat punch here, which is an obvious choice for this page. That punch is from Stampin' Up! They have a dog one as well. So I punched it out in that white text print, and I'm just using some scrap cardstock to create a layer underneath to make it a little bit more thick. I'm going in and getting that bow from Amy Tangerine that I plan to put on the cat, and I'm happy with that. But now I'm getting out these dies from Stampin' Up! They are coffee cups, and that's what you see me cutting out right now. There are all these different pieces. But when I go to cut out the sleeve for the coffee cup, you know what you put on a coffee cup so that your hands don't burn, I have this corrugated cardboard from Stampin' Up! It's an old product. And that really changed the course of my page because, as you can see, I'm cutting out hearts as well. I was finding the combination of red, black, and white kind of harsh, to be perfectly honest. And when I saw that corrugated cardstock and was cutting out my coffee cup, I thought, hey, maybe that would work as opposed to those red hearts. So that's where I'm going with those hearts. Anyway, I'm continuing cutting out pieces of my coffee cup, and you're going to see I cleared everything off my page. Like I said, I wasn't liking where it was going, so it was almost like I had to start with a clean slate. So now I'm building my coffee cup, and you can see all of these pieces. Now, obviously, if you are creating this page, chances are it's not about your cat drinking coffee out of a coffee mug or something like that. So the coffee cup can be replaced with whatever item that would go with your theme. What's important here, I think, are the hexagons at this point. So you can see I'm playing around with placement. I've removed those white hexagons, and now I just have the hearts there, and I'm much, much happier with that. And you can also see I kind of tossed around the title a bit. So now it reads, hey there, Sassy Chester, and at least that gives me a spot at the bottom of that hexagon to do at least a little bit of journaling. I don't have a whole lot, but I do have a little bit to do. Also, what I did was I ended up replacing that white cat that I punched out with a black one. So he shows up better on top of the coffee mug. So now what I'm going to do is adhere all of this down to the page, and that's exactly what you see me doing right now. Those hearts there, I'm popping them up on foam adhesive, and I would really like to place a third one down, but I'm not quite sure where to do it. So I'm going to start adhering my title. I'm going to stop the film, continue with the title, and now what I'm doing is I'm taking that speech bubble and I'm going to pop it up on foam adhesive. So I'm almost done here, but I really do want to incorporate another third heart because that's the only real visual triangle that's happening on this page. And you're going to see I end up putting it on top of the coffee mug. You're going to see that in a minute. At first, I wanted to put it kind of on that red hexagon underneath the coffee mug, but it didn't make sense. So I ended up using one of the smaller hearts because I did end up cutting hearts in 2 different sizes. So I put it on top of the coffee cup. I'm happy with that. And all I end up doing is a bit of journaling underneath my title. And I did add one more speech bubble that says woo-hoo above my cat. And this page ended up being really fun to create. Honestly, I'm really happy with that cardstock, that corrugated cardstock from Stampin' Up that I added. For me, it really did change the layout because I wasn't liking it. And it's funny how a small change can, really change up a layout, or it did in my eyes anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be absolutely thrilled if you did. Please check out the other ladies. Their links are in the description box below. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.